Our presenter today is Asia Evans. Asia is a licensed mental health counselor, speaker, and author specializing in financial therapy. With over a decade of experience, Asia is determined to help more people break the taboo of keeping money and emotions secret. In addition to her practice, Asia serves on the board of the Financial Therapy Association, consults to fintech companies, and will be releasing her debut book, Feel Good Finance, this December. Asia has been featured in a variety of major news outlets, including the New York Times, Business Insider, NerdWallet, and CNBC. Asia is on a mission to get more people engaged in living their best lives while attuning to their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors around money. Outside of work, you can find Asia chasing her two young children as they hunt down the next delicious place to eat. Asia, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to dive in and kind of dive into some of the nuances that I feel like we all have to navigate and go through, but don't really talk about. So I appreciate it. And thank you for the introduction, Sam. And now we can get started. I want you to know my dog, Linguini, just joined me. So if you hear little, dog noises, that's just him being being himself. So I'm going to go and share my screen as we get started. Perfect. Hold on. You're gonna see beautiful niece. And then can everybody see me? See me, see the screen okay? All right, perfect. Okay, so first we're gonna talk a little bit about myself. Sam wrote the bio. This is me. The way you think about kind of therapy a lot of times really is just centered around mental health. And a lot of times we don't actually get the schooling to talk about money. So when I was in my master's degree, money did not come up at all. It was not about how do we navigate money as therapists. If we're going into private practice, there were really no discussions about money. And on my journey after I had moved to New York City in my mid-20s, I really had my own financial awakening and had to figure out like what was going on. And all of that was pretty much born out of making more money than each of my parents, not together, but each of them. I was making more money. I didn't have to be responsible for children at the time. I didn't own a home. I didn't really own very much. I think I kept my car in New York City, and that was about it. But I was making it rain. I was living my best life and just going at it, spending, swiping, doing all of the things, which in theory, yes, of course, was a good time. But then I started finding myself feeling a little bit shameful or guilty because I couldn't afford to do some of the things that some of my friends could afford to do. Of course, we were not talking about how much each of us were making. We were just kind of, going out, swiping, splitting checks all over the place and acting like we didn't care. And I needed to care and I needed to pay attention. And what I found with my work and my clients was that nobody was bringing it up. They would kind of gloss over it, even in therapy and session, and just say, oh, yeah, I'm a little stressed about money and like keep it pushing. But that just didn't sit right with me. And I really wanted to be able to dive in deeper about what was really going on, not just to be able to provide them some of the financial education that I had learned or shared resources, but also to be like, hey, listen, like this may actually be impacting you, even though you gloss over it. And that is because money is so taboo. So while my bio is lovely and I'm really proud of myself for some of the things that I've done, a lot of it is also personal journey that really brought me to this work to begin studying more about the connection and getting involved in financial therapy in general. So before I continue and jump into my presentation, I'm going to ground us a little bit. So I want you, if it feels comfortable for you, to just kind of relax. We're going to kind of do a guided imagery exercise so that we can kind of gauge what comes up for you around your money. So, drop your shoulders. We're going to do a few neck rolls back and forth. If that's not is something that feels comfortable for you, do a few to the side, front and back. And continue to just breathe and get comfortable where you are, relaxing into your position. If it feels comfortable for you, or if this is something that feels accessible, either close your eyes or drop your gaze to a fixed point, allowing your eyes to close. If that doesn't feel right, that's okay. Continue to listen to yourself and begin tuning into your breath. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. We're going to do this about 7 times. So I want you to continue breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel free to deepen your breath as much as you would like, sighing loudly if needed, but allowing yourself to relax. Now, I want you to imagine that you're about to engage with your finances. You're pulling up your account, you're looking at your credit card statement, your loans, your bills, whatever it may be that's in your life right now. And I want you to be mindful of the first thing that comes to mind when you think of that. When you heard the word finances, when you heard the word money, what was the flicker of emotion that came up for you? Hold on to that. And I'm going to slowly bring us out of our meditation. So begin to wiggle your toes, moving around in your seat, slowly allowing your eyes to come back, to leave that space that you were in while still holding that flicker of emotion that may have come up for you. Now, I want you to think about, how often do you experience that feeling? How frequently, when you either think about engaging with your money or needing to engage with your money in some way, shape, or form, does that feeling come up for you in your body? And I want you to just take a second to either write it down or put it in your notes app, to just be aware of the reaction that you go through when money comes up. Where does your mind go? What thoughts or feelings come up? If it feels comfortable for you, drop it in the chat if you were surprised by your reaction, or if this is something that you have been aware of. So before we really get started into things, I like to level set with some of our terms, things that may come up for people. A lot of times when I have these kinds of conversations, people will be like, I've never heard of a financial therapist. Like, what does that even mean? Who are you? What do you do? That sort of thing. So for me, I am clinically trained in mental health and decided to really focus in on money and the integration of finances in our mental health. However, with financial therapy, there may be people who are coming from the financial professional side, and having some conversations with them more about the concrete numbers and less about the feelings, but equally as important. So I, as a mental health professional coming from that area, always focus on the emotions and the behaviors. However, my work does go into the concrete work. And financial therapy really is about the marriage of both. It's a marriage of both mental health and financial professionals coming together to say, hey, what comes up for people? How do they feel about their finances? How do they think about money? How do they communicate and behave around it? And how do we work together in tandem to make sure that we're promoting overall well-being? and evidence-based practices around our interventions. A lot of times it's just been, hey, what's evidence-based practice for mental health or for finances? And there's no conversation. We have lived and operated in silos, but that really does ignore the holistic human being. Um, Given in our example, right? There are things that come up for people when you even mention money, when you start thinking about your finances. And financial therapy really is designed to have a conversation and open up the conversation on this topic that has been very shrouded in shame and guilt and taboo and secrecy and privacy, all of the things. So really what my work is around is giving people that space to have those conversations, whether that means by themselves, with me, or with their friends and family. And what's particular about what we're talking about today is talking about the experience of being a first generation wealth builder. And for some of you or all of you, that may be that you may be the first person in your family beginning to really intentionally build wealth. And that way that it might start impacting your parents, your grandparents, siblings, family members, as well as if you decide or have children currently. So looking at it as, hey, I might have been in a comfortable state, or I was really struggling economically as I was growing up. And now I'm one of the first people in my family to really be in a position to grow wealth. And what does that mean, not only to me, but what does it mean to my family? And thank you for all of you who shared in the chat. I appreciate it. So, where does all of this come from? First, we cannot talk about money without talking about our history, without talking about like, what does this financial system look like? What is it? So there are two different levels. We're going to talk about the micro and then the macro and then the micro, sorry. So when you think about the financial system, it was not built for a lot of people. It was not built with women in mind. It was not built with people of color in mind. It pretty much solely was built for white men. And at the time, that may have made sense to them, but unfortunately, that is not how we have grown and evolved as a society in a way that the systems now can work for everybody. And what we don't realize is that those systemic barriers really do then impact and seep themselves into how our families talked about money. And I'm not just talking about your parents or your siblings, but I'm really talking about kind of the generational impact of not giving access to people to some of these systems. So there was no vehicle to potentially build wealth. There was no access to credit or loans. I believe actually it was this week that we celebrated the 50th year anniversary of women being able to access credit or loans. So when I think about 50 years ago, like that's my mom. So 50, my mom is over 50. She was not able to get a credit card on her own. Women were not able to get credit cards on their own without a signature or permission from a male. And when we think about the financial system and how money is talked about in our families, we can't ignore that a lot of us were left out of those systems, which also means that we may have been left out of the conversations and education around the money in general. And that shifts us into the micro. So how you witnessed your parents, mom, school, media, anybody talking and behaving around money. So if you realize, hey, on Fridays, everybody's in a great mood, we're all going out to dinner, we're celebrating, but by the next Tuesday, the mood has shifted. Things feel a little heavier. People are not as happy or easily opening up their wallets. Looking at the nonverbal communication that was going on around money and what was coming up for people. A lot of times where it's not just the conversations that people are having around money or the fighting or arguments, it's also in the mood shifting. And then when we're kids, we pick up on that very, very quickly. So understanding, hey, now's not a good time to talk to my parent or grandma or auntie, whoever it might be, knowing that something has shifted in the room, but it has gone unsaid. So all of those things that you lived, experienced, heard, talked about, heard other people talking about really culminate into your own money beliefs and what comes up for you. That shifts us into our stories. And this is really about the culture of how you grew up specifically. So there are some studies that have suggested that our beliefs around money are typically formed around age 7. That is very difficult to think about when you realize that at 7, you are in second grade, maybe. You're not usually handling money, you're not making money, but your beliefs are have pretty much been solidified because of what you've been taking in all of that time. I have a 5-year-old. So to me, to think about her solidifying her beliefs in 2 years, I'm like whispering in her ear at nighttime about all these positive money beliefs that I hope she has, that I'm hoping that I'm imparting on her. But because she's also taking in me having conversations about money, me and my partner having those discussions, other people having those discussions, you can't always control where the money beliefs come from. So it's really important for us to start kind of taking the time to understand and dissect where our own money beliefs come from and what they are. So thinking about the stories and the narratives, especially when we're coming from community-based cultures, a lot of times those stories and the narratives are teaching us how to kind of exist in the world. What's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And that's when the nonverbal communication comes in so specifically, because it could just be a look. You know whether you're doing something wrong or right if your parent was kind of just giving you the look. And being aware of, hey, this is okay, this isn't okay. And that comes up with money as well. So those messages carry on through us in our money beliefs, but we may not always be aware of what they actually are. So I gave some examples like money doesn't grow on trees. I'm not made of money, so I can't go buy that certain thing that you may have wanted. Wealthy people are smarter. There are tons of different examples of what your money beliefs may look like. For some people, it might be if you work really hard, you'll be successful. I know we're in the process of figuring out what that looks like and what that feels like for people. I think we're in a major shift between what the quote unquote American dream was for some people and what it is now and what is required of you to actually get to that point. So really thinking about what your money beliefs are going to be really important for you to understand what behaviors are coming up for you. Because a lot of times people think that, hey, once I have money or once I get out of school, once I'm working, these issues will no longer be issues. But you don't realize is that they're not issues about money. It's not about income. It's about your money beliefs. So I am going to implore you to take some time. It can be right now during the presentation or afterwards, or just kind of when you have some downtime to really start thinking about what your money beliefs are and how they show up for you in your life. So another set of terms we're gonna kind of just pinpoint for you because I think they're really, really important is a financial flashpoint, which is an intense emotional experience relating to money. So for some people, that could be their first money memory. I ask that often in my presentation, like, what's your first money memory? What was going on for you? What came up during that point? Or for you, it could have been during our guided imagery. There could have been a flash of, hey, that memory showed up for me during that time. Or it came up for me when I was kind of thinking about money and thinking about those first reactions to hearing checking your balances or looking at your credit card or looking at, anything that involves your finances. So it could be good, it could be negative for you. It really doesn't matter. It's just kind of a money memory that you're like, oh, I consistently go to that point. For me, a positive one was when I bought my first car. I did not have a car growing up when everybody was learning to drive. I still didn't have a car. I got my first car, I think I was about 24, and I bought it by myself. So it was a really big deal for me, and I was really proud of it. So that is an example of a financial flashpoint. Me being able to go into the dealership and purchase the car was a big deal for me. Financial trauma. I think we hear about this quite frequently from people who know what they're talking about and some people who don't know what they're talking about. But really, financial trauma is a stressful event or lived experience that impacts your long-term relationship with money, the way you think about money. So this, I think a lot of times people assume that if you have a financial trauma, it means that you were growing up either in poverty or in a lower socioeconomic status. It does not matter. You can have financial trauma if you're coming from a wealthy situation as well. And really what it is that in that moment, it was related to money, but it felt scary to you. So for somebody, it could be, hey, we had to file for bankruptcy and we didn't know where we were going to live, and I could hear my parents fighting about it. Or somebody lost a job, so we had to move and we had to downsize our living, our home, whatnot. Or it could be, I realize that I'm going to get yelled at and forced to do things that I don't necessarily want to do in order to make sure that I'm okay financially. So for some people, there is a level of manipulation that can come up with money. You need to do this. You need to have this job. You need to go talk to these people. You need to go to this school, and you need to come to dinner every Sunday, or I am not paying your tuition. All of these things can be really, really formative when it comes to how do you believe, the beliefs you have around money, what comes up for you, and then how do you then behave with your money. And I think that's really important for people to make the distinction, because what's happening is it's a pattern. We're starting from early on what your money beliefs were, realizing, hey, this continues to come up for me over and over again, doesn't matter how much money I have. And then I'm uncomfortable with these behaviors. So that's kind of the process that I walk my clients through, honestly, when it comes to financial therapy and beginning to unpack what's going on for them. So I put this graphic up because I thought it would be really important for us to just take a minute to think about, like, what does money represent to you? So take your time. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And I want you to just think about, what does money represent for you? What comes up when you think about it? And I'm going to share the ones, people who are feeling brave, and want to just kind of put it out there what it means. For me, money means some security. I have 2 kids in daycare, so sometimes money means stress for me currently. And I would say freedom comes up as well. And I'd be lying to myself if I didn't say that there's a part of me that does tie my success to how much money I'm making. And the reason why I share that is because I want people to know that even though I literally do this for a living, these are things that we are all going to struggle with in some way, shape, or form. And I don't mind kind of being more vulnerable and sharing that, because I do think it's something that comes up for a lot of people. So I see capitalism, freedom from stress, security, love. Ooh, travel, love that. Bills, stress, insecurity. Great. Thank you. So this is, again, just another reminder for you to just kind of start thinking about what comes up for you when you start thinking about money and what it means. And that will also help get you to what your core beliefs are. So there is a theory by Dr. Klontz. There are 2 of them, the Klontzes, if you will. So it's a father son duo, Ted Klontz and Brad Klontz. They pioneered, are part of the founding fathers, honestly, mothers and fathers of financial therapy, and really came up with these money scripts. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with kind of labels, if you will, and how we decide who belongs in what category, because I tend to work with a lot of type A individuals, specifically women, who want to know that they're doing it right. They want to know, hey, this is the right way to do it. So I try to kind of take that out of my practice and don't tend to use these labels, but I thought I put in the presentation because I thought it would be really important for people who may like to ground themselves in some of the theory that comes up for them. So money scripts, technically, there isn't a right or a wrong one. It's just how you look at money. It's just how you think about money. However, whenever I do these presentations, people are like, no, money vigilance is the only way to be. That's the only one that feels right. It's the correct one. So I'm going to let you decide that with yourself, what feels good to you. But really, this is about being honest with yourself about, hey, what comes up around how you believe money impacts your behavior. So there's money avoidant, as you can imagine. Somebody who does not want to look at their money is avoiding it. And it's not just always looking. It can be like avoiding money in that you were like pushing it away. So for some people, it could be, oh, I'm not going to do more work because I'm uncomfortable with what might come from that. I don't want to be seen. So I'm going to make sure that I work at a place where I can kind of slink back into the corner. I don't want any praises. I don't want any promotions. I just want to do my job, get out. For some people, not all, that is a way of them avoiding their money, never asking for raises, never asking for what their true value is, and just feeling like, oh, it's okay for me to accept this. It's enough. That's fine. I'm not going to push. Money worship, feeling that things would be better if there was more money, and feeling like, hey, I have it. I can make more money. It's going to be better as long as I'm making more money. Money status is the belief kind of that like your net worth and net worth and your self-worth are directly connected. So that is saying, hey, I am only as good as how much money I have. I'm only as valuable as what I'm bringing in my salary. Like I shared, there are parts of me that come up with money vigilance, worship, and status. So you can have multiple. It doesn't have to just be one. And the final one, money vigilance, is just being super attentive to your finances, stressing the importance of saving. For some people, that may look like money hoarding, right? So that could be that you have tens of thousands of dollars in your checking account because that's where it feels safe for you, and you're not going to do anything with it. Conventional personal finance information would say that that's not correct. If you've got tens of thousands of dollars sitting in a checking account, please move it. Please move it to a high yield savings account ASAP. We want to make sure that you're, earning money on your money. So those are the ways that it might show up for you. Like I said, I'm going to let you take your time to kind of think up what comes up when you start thinking about those different scripts. One of the biggest emotions that I see whenever I'm talking about either financial anxiety, making money, not making enough money, being stressed about money, is shame. Shame is constant. I don't care how much money you have. I work with millionaires who have so much shame that they've done well and are in a financial position that they're in and feel really bad about it, versus people who may not be making enough money to make ends meet, and they feel shame about that. Shame does not care who you are. It does not care who you look like, any of it. It just, well, it permeates people and really causes them to isolate. And the difference between shame and guilt, because a lot of times we kind of use them interchangeably, and they're two very, very different things, is that when you are feeling shame, you feel like you're a bad person because of what's going on. I did this with my money. I'm a bad person. And you really carry that, and that can really impact your mental health, your self-esteem, how you see yourself. It can lead to depression. It really, unchecked, can really cause a lot of problems in your life. Whereas guilt is feeling like, oh, I feel bad about this. I feel bad about myself that I got into credit card debt, versus I am a bad person because I got into credit card debt. And understanding that nuance can be really important, because a lot of times there's a negative narrative that's playing for you. If you kind of look back at some of your financial mistakes and you start to tell yourself, I should have known better, I should have been on top of it, I should have, like, it turns into this way of talking to yourself that is not strength-based and is not positive, and it doesn't help. Um, there are a few content creators, or just thought leaders, if you will, that love to use shame as a way to motivate people. I'm not going to use any names, but it does not work. And I cannot put it any more blatant than that. A lot of times we think that if I shame myself, if I talk mean to myself, if I put myself down enough, that is going to motivate me into change. That does not work. We know that positive reinforcement actually works better for humans, to say, hey, yes, maybe you didn't make the best choice at that point, but did you know? Did you have all the tools that you needed? Did you have the information to succeed? A lot of times people don't, but they still want to shame themselves about it. So again, being mindful of how you talk to yourself around your past money dealings or what's going on, and making sure that you're really checking the negative committee in your head. So, what are the biggest challenges that come up for first generation wealth builders? I put a list here. I'm going to take a sip of water. So I want you guys to drop in the chat if there's some that are not listed that you think, oh, hey, I foresee this coming up for me, or I'm seeing this come up for other people. And then we're going to go through them. Okay. So this is what I have pretty much gotten from either my clients or just having kind of these conversations with people. The second somebody finds out I am a financial therapist and or just a therapist in general, a lot of times people are like, Asia, don't psychoanalyze me. And then they are spilling their heart and soul about the secrets. I don't know if it's just the kind of questions I ask or what comes up for people, but in general, I feel pretty comfortable talking about money and pretty comfortable sharing about myself. So that has led to some really powerful, vulnerable conversations, both in my work and in my personal life. So what I've gathered for people mostly is navigating their money beliefs about wealth. What does it mean to potentially move into a different economic status? Unpacking what you believe and what you understand is so important because it is not about how much you are earning. The problems that you have currently or that you recognize in yourself or the patterns or your thought process around money will still be with you if you are earning more money. And that's going to be really important to understand because it can either put you in a position of success or it can really hinder you, especially if you are becoming a small business owner or a large business owner. If you want to run a company, you need to understand what your money beliefs are because that can really impact how you take risk. And the same thing if you're finding jobs. It impacts you in different ways that you don't always realize. Like, oh, I'm making more money, but I'm stressed out about what's going on with my family, and now I'm shopping. Or my favorite thing is to eat. If I'm stressed out, I'm like, "Oh, let's just get delivery. Let's just do, it's fine. It's only the 40 bucks. It's so easy to cope with your money that you don't realize that you're trying to actually deal with your own money beliefs. And it looks fine, right? Like, oh, well, I had the money I spent, it's not a big deal. But what happens when it starts to hinder your ability to meet your own financial goals? And that's what I don't want for people. I don't want our baggage around money and our history to impact our own financial wellness and how you're able to build a life that you feel really good about, whether it's for just yourself or for family or friends. Um, the shift in surrounding community. So if you grew up in one state, financially, your financial state, and you either move to a position where you're making more money and now you are surrounded by different levels of wealth. And this came up in a different university that I gave a similar conversation with what it means when you are coming from one place of wealth, but now you are surrounded by all these other people who are very wealthy and how uncomfortable that can feel to have to navigate both places. How do you kind of manage, hey, I'm doing really well at my job and this is great, and people are living in excess, which good for them, live your best life. But then I go home or I go back to the community that I was raised in and it looks so different. Like the experiences that I'm having do not match up with the experiences of the people that I grew up with, my friends, my family. How do you kind of manage those feelings that come up for you to be able to kind of split both worlds? And what do you take with you from one world and leave behind, knowing that you've kind of grown out of it? And that can be extremely difficult for people because it feels not just hard, but there's a level of guilt that comes up that I want to take everybody with me, and knowing that you may not be able to do that. And that brings me to the third, which is expectations and pressures. Wanting to take everybody with you on your financial glow up. I get it. I will never forget, I started making a certain amount of money at this, I'll tell you, it was $80,000, which to me, I was like, I should be rich. I am rich. And my mom's like, oh, here's my phone bill. Like literally, there was nothing going on that she could afford her own phone bill. She could do it. It was fine. She was comfortable, probably had more savings than I could, but it very much so was her expectation because I was making what she deemed a certain amount of money to just be supplementing her. And I did. And then I was like, I don't actually have to do this. And that's what is very, very difficult about this work is when I start telling people that they don't have to. It doesn't mean you don't want to. It doesn't mean that you don't do it at all. It just means when it comes to your family, how does it make the most sense for you to help, support them, but also make sure that you're okay? And that's where the sandwich generation comes in at this around these times in the next like 5 to 10 years, what it looks like to potentially need to be taking care of the older generations before you, as well as younger generations. So if you decide to have children, but you need to move in your family into your house, what does that look like? If you need to supplement income for older generation, but you also want to make sure you're saving for college for your kids. That is the sandwich generation and figuring out how do you manage the expectations and the pressures. I cannot stress enough, boundaries are the way to do that. And you are going to feel uncomfortable because not everybody is going to respect your boundaries, but it's really important. And the example that I give is that, say, a family member was like, hey, I need $500, but you don't have $500 because it's not in your budget, but you do have two and you're willing to give them two. You can afford to give them two. There may be some pressure to be like, oh, I feel really bad. I feel guilty that I can't give them five, even though it's in my savings account. Do not do that, right? The boundary is I'm able to give you this. I would love to help you, but I can only support you up to this point. So here's the 200, do what you got to do with it. I'm going to be here. And the point of that is that you just literally cannot save everyone. Unless you have enough money to save everybody without sinking yourself. So this is really important to just start understanding what the nuances are around how much money you have, what do you need, how do you create healthy boundaries with your family so you're able to help them and support them where you can, but not feeling the expectation or the pressure that you have to do it because you don't have to. And then the last point before I come to the chat is financial education. This is so important to understand how to manage your money. So understanding when to invest, how much do you invest? What is an emergency fund? Why do you need it? What's a high yield savings account? All of this is going to be helpful to make sure that you're in a position to set yourself up for the long term and then be able to help your family. So this is the put your oxygen mask on first moment to say, hey, I need to learn about the financial education and understand what the vehicles are that I can take advantage of, and then I can figure out to help people. So that could be navigating debt, making sure that you're going to be secure with your own money, and then being able to go back to help your family. So I'm going to take a pause and hop over to the chat really quick and see what comes up for other people. Deprivation mindset and hoarding. Yep. Which makes total sense because if you feel like there's not going to be enough, which comes up a lot with people talking about scarcity mindset, as you can imagine. Like if you feel like there isn't going to be enough because life has told you that there isn't going to be enough, you are going to want to squirrel it away to say, hey, let me keep it for a rainy day to make sure that I have the funds. Family unit and cohesion. Fear of financial loss. Yep. Waiting for the other ball to drop. Yep. Calm before the storm. Surrounding communities and navigating money beliefs. Yes, all of this. So as we kind of gone through the presentation, like I want you to start thinking about what about either your money beliefs, how you were raised, what you experience is now potentially hindering you or impacting what you do with your money. And a lot of that is going to mean that you may have to do some healing. It may have to be how do you create healthy boundaries with your family members or yourself? Because there are some times where you have to create healthy boundaries with yourself and say, hey, I am not going to spend this money. I'm going to stick to my budget because I know how badly I feel when I don't do that. When I go and overspend, I know that I don't feel good about it. So I am going to remind myself before I overspend that we don't want to be there. And how do you kind of make sure that you're taking care of it? So aside from, yes, do you need financial therapy? Maybe. Are there books you can read? Definitely. I'm going to give you a few tips and just kind of go through them, and then we can open it up for Q&A and talk about it a little bit. So one, I'm going to say is give yourself grace and be kind to yourself. Remember when I was talking about the negative committee that lives in your head, that has all this nonsense to say and just wants to be mean? It does not help. It doesn't motivate you. It doesn't make you feel better. It actually leads to lower self-esteem and potential depression and isolation. When you feel shameful, you isolate. You're not shouting for the rooftops, hey, I feel great. You're like, you know what? I'm going to stay home. I'm not going to talk to my friends. I'm going to take this time to just kind of be alone. I deserve to be alone. I don't deserve to be around people. So just be aware of when that kind of negative narrative is coming up for you and what you're saying to yourself. Define your goals and what you want. So frequently we are going into life doing things that our family wants us to do, and it really can be a recipe for disaster if you don't want to do it. If you feel like, oh, I'm doing this for my family, that's great, but where's your own intrinsic motivation? The motivation may be family and to make them proud and, to do right by them and to do the things that they wanted you to do, but you are also going to have to find the intrinsic motivation of figuring out what you want, right? Because I'm looking for long-term happiness for people, not just kind of the short-term, like, oh, I'll be okay. Yeah, but eventually that starts to corrode and people are left. What I just don't want for anybody is for 5 to 10 years for you to wake up and be like, I don't like this. Like, I don't like the life that I've set up for myself because it wasn't coming from me. So, as much as you possibly can, inject what is important to you and understand why it's important to you and start to make sure that that's a priority in how you set up your life. Creating healthy boundaries. No is a complete sentence. And it feels awful to use sometimes when you love somebody and you want to give them the things that they want from you, but you cannot give everybody everything. You just can't. So, holding healthy boundaries, again, sometimes for yourself, but for other people is going to be really, really important. And knowing that you're doing it to be able to be present to help or to show up for them in the future. And it doesn't just have to be money, it could just be time, it could be energy. We all want to help out the people we care about, but you can only help out somebody so much without starting to impact yourself. So just being aware of what your own healthy boundaries are and creating them. Learn about money. This is back to the personal finance and making sure that you have some of that education. They have to be paired together. Understanding yourself and financial therapy and understanding your life experience needs to be paired with financial education to be financially well, to make sure that you are in a good place, that you're taking care of, that you feel secure and are living your best life. You need both. You can be great at the mental health and behavioral side of it, but then you get the money and you're like, oh, well, this feels good and I feel good, so I'm doing XYZ. No, no, no. I want long-term stability for you and long-term financial wellness, and you have to understand the money to be able to do that and manage it. Making a plan and trusting it is the next one. So it could be anywhere from a budget is a plan, a debt payoff strategy could be your plan, anything that you've decided, hey, this is a financial goal, I'm going to break this down to create a plan for me. And I say trust it because a lot of times when you're in crisis, you want to just blow up the plan and do something different. And I want you, when you're in crisis, to step away from your plan. Don't touch it. You're not doing anything. Nope. This is not the time when you are hot and sweating and upset and potentially fighting with somebody. Now is not the time to do anything with your money. Do not touch it when you are calm, regulated, taken a pause, taken care of yourself, done some self-care, relaxed, given some space between you and the crisis, then you can go reassess your plan and decide if it is still working or not. But do not change your plan when you are in crisis. If you find that you're upset and you know the signs when you're upset, right? You're not sleeping, you're not eating the way you want to, you're sweating, your heart is racing, you're feeling really anxious, you're worried about it, you are scrambling to figure out the situation. Do not change the plan then. That's the time to just work the plan that you made when you were regulated, And then you can come back and decide if that plan is still working because circumstances change. Talk to people and get support because talking about money is so difficult and so vulnerable. People don't do it and they just kind of suffer in silence, which I find to be awful. And I don't want that for anyone. So find people that you can trust and feel comfortable talking and then ask them, right? Like get the consent. Hey, I really want to talk about money. I am going through something and I was wondering if that's something that might feel comfortable for you. I know it might be hard at first, but I really want to start having these conversations more frequently. That could be with a partner, that could be with a friend, it could be with family members, it could be with colleagues, especially when job searches come up. Talk to the people who are doing the work and ask them how much they're making. Don't just be like, hey, my name is Aisha, how much do you make? But, build some rapport, ease in, and ask them if they're comfortable having a conversation about salary, especially when it comes to either negotiating or making sure that you're at market level. Because so frequently we stop ourselves from having those types of conversations and then get paid less and don't know it because we never brought it up. So, especially when you're looking at jobs or changing jobs or having those type of conversations, look at what the market rate is. If you cannot find it, start asking people who are at a similar level in your industry and prep them and say, hey, I'm doing some market research around salaries. Would you mind sharing how much you make? Very, very important. So getting people to talk to and having those conversations around money. At this point, all of my friends know I'm always going to talk about money. It's always going to come up. They feel comfortable. And I also know who's willing to go to those places and who's not. And when it comes to my partner and I want to talk about money far more frequently than he does, I will ask like, hey, can we do a money date? Let's quite literally put it on the calendar. We're going to talk about our finances Friday night at XYZ time, because what you're saying is, hey, I want to talk about this, but I want you to feel prepared. I don't want you to feel attacked. I don't want to feel like this came out of the blue when we were trying to have this conversation. And I don't want you to feel defensive. Like, no, we're just trying to talk about it. So prefacing to the other person, if you want to talk about it, can be really helpful. And then take care of yourself. So the self-care is very serious. It's very, very important, whether it is having those conversations, whether it's going on a long walk, meditating, listening to music, journaling, exercising, going out to eat, whatever it may be, please take care of yourself because we don't realize that when we feel really crappy, it is a recipe for us to go spend money and make poor financial decisions. So taking care of yourself really can impact what you do with your finances. And then lastly is celebrate your wins. I know personally, I still have my grad school loans. I needed them to be able to go to grad school. It was very important for me to become a therapist. I've wanted to do this work since I was 12. And I would have never been able to go to grad school without student loans. And I think for some people, when you are thinking about, oh my goodness, this is tens of thousands of dollars, how am I ever going to get out of this? It can feel like never ending. So I just want you to celebrate your wins. Every small step you make, every dollar that is invested is a choice that you're making for future you. Every dollar that you pay off debt is a choice that you're making to make sure that you feel more stable, that you feel more secure. So really celebrate your wins. No matter how big or small they are, it is important for you to realize that you are making progress when it doesn't feel like you're making progress. And then lastly, this is the QR code to my book, Feel Good Finance, that really dives into all of the things that we were talking about today and really dissects them and the nuances of everything that comes up, as well as my contact information. So you can find me on IG at Asia E Therapy, as well as TikTok a little bit. I'm on LinkedIn as well at Asia Evans LMHC, and then at my website, asiaevanscounseling.com. And I believe there might be a link in the chat too.
Yes, we'll place a link in the chat momentarily. Asia, thank you so much. I learned so much, particularly just about how our beliefs we carry them everywhere we go. No matter what our material circumstances are, those will affect our behaviors. And to really reflect on that, I thank you for that. Okay,
Absolutely.
everyone. Thank you. As we transition to the Q&A, I'd like you to gather your thoughts and all of your questions. And my colleague is going to place our evaluation survey in the chat. Could you please just do me a favor and open that link right now? This is so that you'll just have the tab ready and waiting for you when we're done. Thank you. And now I want to ask again if you could please change your name to the name that you registered with so that we know that you're here. And now, what questions do you have for Asia? You can type them in the chat, you can raise your hand and speak them. Let us know. Asia, there are two questions in the chat. The first one asks, in your experience, how much is financial anxiety tied to the fact that poor people are treated poorly in this country? Do people feel they have to be rich to feel respected?
I mean, yes, I'm going to try really hard not to hop on my capitalism soapbox and rail against it, because I feel like the way our country functions right now is it holds people up as like I said, like you make more money, so you're smarter, you're more valuable, you're more worthy of respect because you have a certain income or because you're doing well. I think when we step away from kind of the macro and start surrounding ourselves with people who have different values, it can feel better. So I really fully believe in the people you surround yourself are going to either hinder you, help you, make you feel worse, or make you feel better about your standpoint. But I think that we treat people who do not have money horribly in this country. And I think we put a lot of shame on them when it a lot of times has nothing to do with who they are or where they come from. It's just kind of what we value. So I don't know how much that answers the questions, but it does come up quite frequently in my work and what it means for people to kind of balance that tightrope of, yes, this is where I came from, this is who I am, this is what I value, and am I seen as successful even though I don't value money and finances and those types of things.
Thank you. Someone has two questions.
Mhm.
First, what are some of your favorite resources for learning more about managing your finances?
Mhm. So like I said, I like this is my whole life. I read about this all the time. I podcast all of it. So I really like Tiffany Alice's Get Good with Money. Like if you're looking for like some core financial concepts, she has a book and she has a journal. So the first kind of like more like personal finance, like walk you through encyclopedia would be Get Good with Money. Also, Paco de Leon's Finance for the People. Fantastic book. Absolutely love that. Literally, I have it right behind me. Those are two resources that I really like. I also really enjoy the Money with Katie podcast. But I will say, if you're looking for specific personal finance education, you're going to have to go way back in her library because now she's taking more of a kind of socioeconomic, anthropological look at how finances impact people. So if you're looking for the education, go way back or read those other two books. Or actually, both Tiffany and Paco have podcasts too. So that can be really helpful. I also like Vivian too. Like, I think she knows what she's talking about. What I forget her handle. Your Rich BFF. So the Budgetnista, Your Rich BFF, and then Paco's I forgot Paco's handle, but Weird Finance is their podcast. But yeah, those are some of my favorites. Also Remy, if you like him, I'm trying to figure out how I feel about his new standpoint about like diving into more therapeutic approach with couples. But I Will Teach You to Be Rich is also a good book for personal finance education too.
Thank you. And this person also asks, do you have any advice for regulating yourself when looking at your finances? Makes you feel like you are in crisis.
Mm-hmm. So I would say, what are you doing before and what are you doing after? So if you are like, okay, it's a Friday morning, I'm feeling good, I'm calm, I had my tea, my coffee, my water, I know I'm going to be anxious after this. what am I going to do to kind of problem solve and regulate? So like actually walking yourself through those steps before. Do not, like I said, do not go into your finances when you're stressed out. And also remember that you may be stressed out looking at this. And I mean, if you were sitting in front of me, I'd be like, okay, well, like, why do you feel like you're in crisis? Are you in crisis? Does it just feel overwhelming, but you're not in crisis? So like really asking yourself what's going on when you're feeling like you're in crisis. Like, why is that? Is it, I don't have enough money. I'm broke right now. I have too much debt. I'm never going to be able to pay it off. Recognizing like you do not have to pay this off tomorrow. You do not need to save $10,000 tomorrow. This is all going to take time, and that's okay, but you need to give yourself the actual time. And then after you look at your finances, what do you do afterwards to kind of then regulate? So going into it calm, but then what do you need to do afterwards? If you look at your computer, you're stressed out about your finances, leave. Like shut your computer after you look at them, do what you need to do. And then we got to go do something else. We need to shift perspective. We need to get outside, breathe some fresh air, literally touch grass because I'm all about grounding exercises. Talk to somebody, something else. Like do not just sit there in your upsetness, staring at your numbers. That's not the way, because that will put you into crisis. So do something else to follow up and take care of yourself.
Thank you for that advice. Someone asks, do you have any free/low cost money managing apps or a website that can help us track our income?
Yes, there's this woman that I just found. I think her name is Alex. To be honest with you, I bought it too. So two people. Alex, I am gonna have to like hunt her down. Um, a lot of people will put up kind of like money trackers, if you will, and are selling them. Some are better than others. Have to find her last name, but this woman, Alex, she is on social media. She built a beautiful, amazing Excel tracker that I think is fantastic. And I think it's like $10, which is really good because some of them can be very, very expensive. So I'm going to wait for this to load and I'll tell you. But there's also another one who, let's see, practice income stress tracker. All right, I might have to get back to you and email it because I'm like, I have to go dig and find it, but you can find pretty much trackers everywhere. That might be in Excel. Some apps are better than others. I can't remember how much Monarch is. I do really like that tracker. That is pretty good and on top of it. Also, your bank may have a tracker themselves to track your expenses and compare them to the budget. So start with what you're already utilizing. So check to see if your bank has one. If you like the Excel, like I said, I'll send it to you guys and tell you who does it. But Monarch is the other one that I like, and Pilot too, but I don't know how much it cost. Copilot.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions? Anything at all?
Can I ask two questions?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Asia. So I think about 15 years ago, they used to say that $75,000 per year was the baseline annual income that you needed in New York City, after which there was no further increase in happiness. What is the new 75,000? Is it like 150,000 today? And yeah,
Great question. I am familiar with the study that you're talking about. So I talk about it in my book. So at first it was $75,000. I think the last time they reported they did the study again, it went up to $500,000 that there was no increase in happiness post $500,000 type of thing. Now,
income per year?
oh yes.
Wow.
So I think that's ridiculous. I think that people can live beautiful, happy lives without making that. But I do understand where that number may come from, because if you're just measuring for there's no more increase in happiness, right? After $500,000, like pretty much you can get anything that you want. You can make sure that you're stable. You can help your family out. You can do those things with $500,000. Now, 75,000, depending upon where you live, could be great. I haven't seen the numbers that specifically like looking at the area, right? Like I'm based in New York City. I know for a fact $75,000 is not enough for a family. It's not enough for both parents to be working and have to kind of send their kid to either some kind of childcare situation. Like I know that is not going to work. So again, it depends on where you live. I don't know what the new number is because again, $500,000 sounds astronomical to me. But what I would say is to think about what you need, what you want to do, what you want to accomplish, and back yourself into the number. And that can be done by thinking about retirement. So like if you're like, hey, if you follow finance, like there's the FIRE movement, so financially independent, retire early. And pretty much people are like working as hard as they can, saving and investing as much money as they can to then just live off the dividends and stop working. And that can help you get to your number of like, hey, if I was living off 4% of my investments, that would give me XYZ amount of money a year, given your housing, given your food costs, given how you want to travel, given who you're taking care of. So I don't know the new number. I would love to know, but because $500,000 sounds crazy to me.
Yeah. And I was just curious, like, was there for just assuming New York City is the place that people are living in, what is the amount of money that one needs to retire?
I mean, again, it depends on what your lifestyle looks like because there are a lot of people in New York City who live great and are making like 85,000 and have a beautiful life and are comfortable, but it also depends on where you live in the city, how much your rent is. Are you living in a rent stabilized apartment? Are you living in an apartment that was passed down through generations? Um, and I mean, this is just given like my clients. I think somebody who has no kids living alone can happily manage on like, I'll say like 80. I want to say 75, but some other people would tell me that's too low. But that's about lifestyle, right? Like that's about what you're spending, what you're doing. I think you could happily live and save money um, on 125 by yourself. What happens is that you start adding in the other things like a mortgage or kids. So I can tell you, so I live in a suburb of New York City outside. This past year, I have 2 kids in daycare. My daughter just started school, but in 2023 to 2024, we spent $45,000 on daycare. So for 2 kids, $45,000 in the suburb of New York City. So if you think, and I think I have friends, like if you're not going to like a fancy daycare, they probably spend about $3,000 per kid while they're really young before they get into the school system. So it really does depend on lifestyle. There are people who live in lower cost of living areas, have $1 million in investments, and they're comfortable to live off of that in their lower cost of living. So that works for them, the $1 million. And I think it's like at that point, it would be like $40,000, the conservative rate of investments that you would be pulling out. They can live on $40,000 a year and it's okay. I would not suggest anybody try to live on $40,000 in New York City. It's just not going to work. Like rent for some people costs that. Like I think I have friends, clients who are paying like $3,000 in rent for 1 bedroom, 3,000, 3,300. So 40,000 is just not going to work after taxes. So it really depends on what you want your lifestyle to look like, how close you want to live to the city. Yeah, a lot of nuance.
Thank you.
Asia, how does one not blow? You gave in your tips, like when things get rough, don't blow up. Make a plan and don't blow it up, right? Trust it. As a person who is a perpetual blower upper of the plan, because I have a hard time trusting myself in the overwhelm.
Yeah.
How does one not blow up the plan?
Yeah. Well, I would say one longer term parallel process would be how do you learn to trust yourself and what do you need to do to start doing that and healing how you treat yourself to start trusting yourself and getting the evidence and the proof that says that you can trust yourself. Because I'm sure there are plenty of great decisions that you've made that say that you can trust yourself, but when you're in crisis, That's not where you're going. You're going to the other proof. You're going to the, oh my goodness, look what I did. This is, I can't trust myself. So create the proof so that when you are in the crisis, you can then go back and affirm and remind yourself, I can actually handle this. It may not be as bad as I think it is. So let me just pause and not make any moves. And when you're like knee deep in the crisis, like, you know how you feel, right? We all know how we feel when something is kind of spiraling. Please attune into yourself so you're aware. The best way to stop a spiral is to realize that you're spiraling before you do anything. So stop, ask yourself, am I hungry? Am I angry? Am I tired? Am I lonely? Those things before you do anything. Address your like literal physical needs first. And then after that, return. Okay, why am I spiraling? What's going on? What am I worried about? Okay, what coping skill can you utilize right now so that you're not like, the world is ending, I'm doom spending, I'm just, fuck it, I'm doing anything I want. Like, I don't want that for anybody. So just taking the time to realize that you're spiraling and then realizing what are the coping strategies that do not involve spending a ton of money that help get you more regulated. Outside, water, walking, talking to a friend, laughing, taking a nap, taking a shower, all those things may help, because what we're just trying to do is just take you out of stress and crisis response into, okay, let's logically look at what's going on. I do not want to blow up everything because I don't like when I do that. I don't feel good when I do that. So what can I do instead? If I want to blow it up in 48 hours because I have been stressed out, okay. Like you did all the things that you can do, to kind of help regulate you.
Awesome. Thank you. What are some tips that you have when it comes to investing money, especially when it is a high stress point?
I mean, as a therapist, I'd be like, why is it stressful? Why are you stressed? What's coming up? Are you scared? Do you feel like you don't know enough? Do we need to address that, right? So the personal financial education may be important, but really, I'm all about the invest early and set it and forget it. Like, you do not need to be looking at your investments. You do not need to be tracking the stock market or the exchange on your phone. It is not that serious. Set it and forget it. So if that means, hey, I'm pulling this money out of my account, 20 bucks a month, 50 bucks a week, whatever it might be for you, whatever, pull it. Do not worry about it. You are investing for long term. You're not investing for it to be like, hey, I'm going to pull this out in 6 months. If you plan on pulling out that money, you don't need to put it in the market or invest it that way. You can put it in a high yield savings account. But if it's something that's like, hey, this is for my retirement, set it and forget it. Like, don't even pay attention to it. It's not your money. It's future you. That it's their money. An exercise that I've done with some clients before, and sometimes myself, is to envision who and what you want to be when you're older. When the older version of you needs this money, what are they interested in? What are they doing? I say that I want to be a fit old lady who is on the coast of France or Italy and is just eating and drinking delicious things. Like, that's what I want to be doing. I hang out with my family, I write books, I work out, and I eat. That's my vision. So when I'm investing, I'm thinking about that version of Asia, not this current present day version of me. So like, paint the picture of your future self, what you want for them, what you want their life to look like, and then start investing and be like, nope, this is not my money. This is for that person. Set it and forget it.
Thank you. They say that, the question asker just said that it just kind of feels like gambling to their brain because they associate it, they don't actively see it all the time. So they feel like it just becomes a high stress area.
Statistically, the market always returns. So if you look at longer term investing, long term, right? I'm not talking about the, hey, I've been in the market for 2 years. I'm seeing these huge ups and down dips. I'm talking about you've been in there for 20 years. You're in there for 30 years. You're in there for 40 years. Longer term, it will continue to go up because you're not looking at these like the Great Recession goes down, COVID's going to go down, election years, it goes down. There are things that happen that are going to impact the investments, but you don't need to be looking at that because you're investing longer term. So another aspect of that is like, hey, understanding the way you want to be investing and what you're investing for, so that you know, I'm not putting this money in to get it out in a year. I'm putting this money in so I can get it out in 30.
And Asia, what's a high yield savings account?
Sure. So a high yield savings account is high yield is talking about interest rate. So if you have a Chase account, if you have a Bank of America account, your savings account that's usually attached to your checking, they'll usually open both for you. That savings account is probably making 0.001%. So it's the interest rate on your money. So if you say, hey, I'm going to let you hold this $1,000, and then one day you just see like a penny was deposited into your account, that's the interest rate. And that is kind of what it looks like on the average checking savings accounts. But a high yield savings account is usually giving you somewhere, I mean, the rates are really high right now, but it's usually around 4 to 5%. So you're earning more money. So when people are using the words like let your money work for you, that's what they're talking about. So, hey, I gave you this $1,000, and I don't know the math right now off the top of my head, but instead of the like penny I'm getting, now I'm getting 45 cents, or now I'm getting 50 cents on this $1,000. You would have to look at the percentages, but really what it is the interest rate that they give you back on your money that's sitting in the account. Ally is really a big one that people use. I think SoFi has high interest rates. Laurel Road has high interest rates right now for high yield savings accounts specifically. And the money I would put in a high yield savings account is money that you were saving for a house that you plan on buying maybe within 2 to 5 years. An emergency fund that's just kind of sitting there to make sure that you have a safety net or a safety blanket that's hanging out there as well. So high yield savings account could be like, hey, I plan on traveling in 8 months, so I'm going to stick this money in there and then pull it out.
Awesome, thank you. There was somebody who had a question? Okay, well, while we let them come back to us, someone else asks, what advice do you have for someone in a lower paid job, such as a PhD student, in terms of building longer term financial well-being? For example, without having things like employer contributions to retirement, etc.
And I will say, like, this was me too. When I got out of grad school as like a mental health therapist, we have to get hours. And I was making $38,500. Like, that was my first job. I had to live at home, so I would say, how can you cut your cost as much as possible in a way that you can still be okay? You know what I mean? Like that you can still feel safe and feel comfortable. And then making sure you prioritize what's important to you. So that may mean, hey, I love going out with my friends, but I can only go out once a month. So I'm going to really invest time and energy into cooking and learning how to cook. So it feels like a really amazing if people come over to my place or I bring food. So doing those kind of things to just help your budget. But what I would say when it comes to investing is it does not matter how little or small the amount is, it's still something. What I wish I was doing is that I was putting in maybe like $100 per pay period. And 200 at the time would have felt like a really, really big deal. But I wish I was investing that longer term because I got out of my graduate program, I think I was 24, 23, 24. At this point, it would have been there for almost 15 years. Like, that's a long time for that money to be sitting there. And in 30 years, that would have grown exponentially, even though you don't have the employer match. So I would say invest something. Do not be like me. I pulled my investments out. I had no idea what I was doing. I pulled it out. I was like, oh, I could use $700 for this move. Great. Pulled it, taxed it. So silly. I should not have done that. I just didn't know. So whatever you're putting into your investments, investing in your retirement, even if it's a small amount, even if it's $20, try to do something. I would say try to get to $100 a month that you're investing. If you can do more, great, beautiful, wonderful. Live on less and just invest early, and your income will go up. It will go up, but it feels like you'll be there forever.
Thank you. And Asia, many financial advisors recommend paying off any debt, like a car, student debt, etc., before investing any money or even utilizing money for the present expenses like travel. Do you agree with this? Do you think that there are scenarios in which investing now, even when you still have some low interest debt, might make sense?
Yes, do both. You can do both. Like it might take you a little bit longer, but that's okay. Do both, because that is going to be equally as important with when you're investing as paying off your debt. Yes, paying off your debt is great. Honestly, I wish I paid off my debt earlier, and that would have been great, but it just wasn't my life because I didn't know. I didn't have beautiful things like this to be like, hey, Asia, let this jog your your memory and kind of let's do something different. But you can do both at the same time. You can pay off your debt. You can also be investing. You can still live your life. It just may not be as quick. And a lot of the people who are saying like pay off your debt quickly also they kind of don't want you to like enjoy your life at the same time. They want you to just work really hard and constantly nonstop and only pay off your debt. That's not living. Like this is a really special time, whether you're working in grad school, but once you're finally done and you're out, like you should enjoy, you should celebrate. Don't blow all of your money, but you can do both at the same time. Like I said, even if it's only a small amount of money, even if it's like, hey, I'm only investing $100 and I'm putting an extra 100 to my student loans, but I'm also booking this trip because I saved for it. So you can do all of the things at the same time. It just might take a little longer, and that's okay.
Thank you, Asia. How can someone invest for their retirement? Do they
Um,
set up
oh,
through
yep.
their employer, through their bank, or through another institution like Fidelity or Vanguard?
All of the above. So, except for, I mean, depending upon what your bank is, your bank might have investing, it might not, it depends on what it is, but I would definitely 100% start with your employer. If your employer has a 401k, if they have a 403b, and those are just like retirement vehicles. This is all the like kind of financial jargony stuff. You're like, what does that even mean? Ask your HR person, ask them if they have a match. The match is really just your company saying, hey, we are going to give you up to 3% of like what you are putting in. So they're just giving you the free money if you vest, which means if you stay there long enough. So start with your company, if they have retirement vehicles you can take advantage of them. If they don't have any matching, they still actually might have the retirement vehicles and you just put the money in there. Again, the vehicles are the 401k, 403b retirement plans. Yes. So I would say start employer, ask, and if they don't have any of that, then you can go look at the Vanguards, the Fidelities, the other banking investment institutions where you are opening the account on your own and then putting the little bit of money, pulling it out of your account to fund it as regularly as you want. But yes, I love that you're thinking about retirement. I'm happy you are. Please do it.
Thank you. Do you have any advice for a PhD student regarding retirement savings options?
Not really. Like I'm trying to think like if if an employer has a benefit that you can do, yes. If you I want you to take care of your basic needs first, right? Like make sure that you are eating, have your rent paid, all of your needs are met. If you find that there's some extra, make sure you have some space to do things that you love. If there's like a hint of extra after that, after you have some savings and you can afford to put into your retirement, sure, but your PhD is not forever. Um, and you hopefully will be working in some way, shape, form, capacity. If you don't have the money to put into your retirement right now, that's okay. And I mean, like, there's just no space for it. I don't want you to feel stressed because you're like, oh my God, Asia told me I need to be saving for my PhD, like saving for retirement during my PhD. If there's no money for it, there's no money for it. And that's okay. Like, I'm not trying to tell you to like squeeze blood from a stone. Absolutely not. But if you have a little room to be like, hey, I can afford to put in a little bit of money into my retirement, then I would say do it. And if you don't have retirement accounts that either come from employment or something else, then open it up in an investment institution.
Thank you, Asia. What credit cards do you recommend for benefits like travel miles?
I mean, people make a whole living on travel hacking and miles and things of that nature. I am not the most proficient in that. There are definitely people you can go to. I still like kind of classic, like old school. I really like the Chase card. So it's either Chase Preferred or Reserve, depending upon the fee and what feels comfortable and how much you travel. I still really like those cards. I think the miles and the benefits really work. But do not just spend money to get miles. Don't do that. If you're already spending the money and you get miles, great. If you were, hey, I'm going to be paying my rent. I pay my rent every single month. I put it on this card because my landlord lets me do that. The management company lets me do that. And then I pay it off every month, no matter anyway. Great, do that. But do not go racking up credit card debt because you're just trying to get the miles. You could literally just afford to pay for the flight. Like the flight is more expensive trying to pay in miles than it would be if you were just paying for it. So don't go into debt trying to get the miles. But yeah, I like the Chase cards.
Thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for Asia? If not, that's all right. We're going to put Asia's contact information in the chat so that you can always reach out if you need to. I guess that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank everyone in the audience for their presence and your participation. And I want to thank Asia so much for sharing both your time and your wisdom with us today. Thank you. And y'all, don't forget to check out Asia's upcoming book, Feel Good Finance. The link is being pasted in the chat. And also make sure to check out our survey link so that we can continue to improve our programming for you. The recording of this event will be sent once it is processed. And thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone. We will also make sure to grab all of these links that Asia has provided for us and resources and send those out in an email as well.